This is a very, very unique moment in American politics and government. For the first time, we actually have a president who is deeply committed to re-engaging the public, not just in the campaign cycle, which he clearly did it with an extraordinary amount of grace and competence, but in governance itself. And he has as all of you are well aware, but it bears repeating as many times as we need to repeat it, that one of his first acts on his first full day of the presidency was to put out a memorandum to all federal agencies, all departments, program managers, to say, we have to figure out how to re-engage the American public in their government and governance. Clearly the markers were transparency, collaboration, and participation. This meeting is to recognize that there are existing, not just those of you in this room, but marbled throughout the federal government here in Washington, in field offices all across the country, literally thousands of federal managers who have been seriously, by intent and by practice, engaging the public in interesting and important ways for decades. The first time that we had an opportunity to exchange with Beth, one of the very first things she said is we have to learn from the best practices that already exist inside this government. We have to learn for those processes and procedures that have been put in place that can be replicated and can be scaled or taken to scale, I think is the best way to say it. So our goal is to be productive, to come up with a set of collective views from all of you around really what are the critical issues to be addressed in the recommendations that the task force presents to the President and the President to the country on May 21st.
U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I have been involved in public outreach. I lead a team on public outreach to talk about NRC's basis for its decision whether or not to license a repository at Yucca Mountain, Nevada. I have been involved for 10 years in that effort to help the public understand that we are an independent regulatory agency and that we have an open public process that has been structured over many years of experience in our agency in making such decisions. I would have to say the thing that most moved me in this area, and I've had many, many very moving moments where making our job and what we do more accessible to interested stakeholders, and people care very passionately about decisions surrounding radioactive waste disposal, I can assure you, although I'm sure you never would have guessed that, is how very, very engaged people in local communities and affected tribes have become in coming forward with contentions and issues about which we will be deciding. In fact, oral arguments start tomorrow. I'm going to miss the first round, and that's fine because this is very important. But to feel that people who live in the community and are affected by our decisions have either contacted their representatives at a local level or themselves are participating, and including Native Americans, has really made a difference in our process and in our management's willingness to expand further in the outreach area. Thank you.
I'm Scott Davis with the Office of the Federal Coordinator for Gulf Coast Rebuilding. It's in the Department of Homeland Security. And I guess my experience would be maybe one not so much where there was a potential for public participation where it worked well, but where I met a lot of resistance to that, and you could see those forces take shape very actively. And that was after Hurricane Katrina. I was working with long-term community recovery planning in partnership with the state of Louisiana, and the governor's office and ourselves would go down and meet with mayors and parish presidents, introducing the concept and engaging them to participate jointly in the process. And so many of the parish presidents and the mayors would just kind of very point blank say, why do you need to go through this whole process of holding meetings and asking my community what they want if you want to know what we want, just ask me and I'll tell you, what we want. Don't waste your time, asking everybody else, I'll let you know. And let's, that public participation and planning, and it sounds like a bit of a waste of time to me. Let's just get it going. And so those are some of the kind of the local forces that you encounter, and that's something that obviously drove me to continue to get away at this. So.
I'm John Shea. I'm with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I've actually been with FEMA for about 10 years, and I came to FEMA as a journalist because I wanted to find all the great secrets that the government was hiding. And I just found a lot of work. But primarily what kept me at FEMA was the fact that my job was a fantastic opportunity to share with the public, the good things that the government was doing, but also the things that we're not really doing correctly, and look for feedback. And one of the things that I found more recently is the ability through social media to get that feedback and have a corrective channel that we can actually say, this isn't addressing the issue at hand, and be able to use those tools to help guide some folks who are looking at what kind of communications models are necessary to be able to reach the public we need to. And this goes across a lot of things. Some of the stuff that we've really been able to find was folks who maybe have language barriers or technology barriers, folks who may not be able to have the same education level to read messages. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned working with FEMA, is that everybody has a need for information, and the right information at the right time can actually engage the people and also give them an opportunity to direct their own response and recovery in disasters. And that's the most powerful thing that I think that we have an opportunity in FEMA as communicators to be able to bring to our communities.
My name's Archon Fung, and I teach at the Harvard Kennedy School, and I've been looking at different, not doing as you all have, but only looking at and trying to understand different experiences of citizen participation for about 15, maybe 20 years now. I guess the most moving experiences of citizen participation that I see are ones in which decision makers actually share decision-making power with citizens in the course of participation. Probably the most moving one comes from maybe Brazil, where city governments in Brazil have actually shared the power of deciding where the money goes over infrastructure investment decisions. So it would be like actual citizens got to vote on which projects the stimulus package money funded. And one result of that was that much more money got invested in poor areas than before, and much less went to basically chaos and corruptions than before. And that was quite moving.
Thank you, Archon. My name is Virginia Tippy, and I'm an oceanographer, actually, but I've been involved with public policy and public involvement, I guess, for about over 35 years by virtue of being concerned about developing good public policy. I work with the Coastal America Partnership, which is a multi-agency partnership that's chaired by the White House Council on Environmental Quality, but I am my home agency is NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And I think perhaps the most significant experience I had in terms of public involvement that I think was very, actually really convinced me of the importance of public involvement and participation was the Chesapeake Bay program. I was the director of the program as a scientist, and realized that there was no way we were going to get the bay restored and protected unless we got everybody involved and engaged in the process. And one of the exciting things was in the very early years of the 80s, we were able to work with the stakeholders to develop a consensus of what we needed to do about the bay. And that consensus back in the 80s resulted in an agreement to clean up the Chesapeake Bay. And I think that was a really good example of how important the stakeholder involvement and the public participation helped create the will to make something happen. And of course there's all the ups and downs of any program, as we all know, but I do think that is, to me, one of the good examples of public involvement being successful.